The emergency beacon shrieked across diplomatic channels, but Admiral Kate Morrison silenced it with a single gesture. Around the command deck of the Valiant, her officers watched the incoming transmission with cold eyes. The Galactic Council was calling again. Third time in 2 hours. "Should we answer, Admiral?" Lieutenant Danny Graves asked, his hand hovering over the comm panel. "Let them wait," Kate said, turning her attention back to the holographic display showing their fleet positions. 47 human vessels now ring the Council's primary station. Weapons hot but not locked. Not yet. The Council had made their choice 6 months ago when they'd authorized the Kryn Empire to blockade Earth's outer colonies. Humanitarian concerns, they'd called it. A measured response to human expansion. The deaths of 12,000 colonists on New Detroit had been deemed acceptable losses in their precious galactic order. Now the Council wanted to talk. Kate watched another urgent message flash across her screen. Council Speaker Vorn himself was requesting immediate negotiations. She deleted it without reading past the first line. "Admiral, the Kryn Defense Fleet is moving into position," Commander Lisa Park reported from Tactical. 98 ships, they're forming a defensive perimeter around the station. "Let them," Kate replied. "How long until the Lincoln arrives?" 40 minutes. Kate nodded. The Lincoln carried the new weapons. The ones that had made every military strategist in Council space very nervous over the past 3 weeks. Human innovation, they'd learned, moved faster than galactic bureaucracy could respond to, her personal comm chimed. It was President Hayes calling from Earth. She accepted it. "Admiral Morrison, the Council is threatening sanctions if we don't negotiate." The President's voice was tight with barely controlled anger. "They're calling this an act of war. They should know what one looks like," Kate said. "They authorized the Kryn to fire on our civilian transports. We're just returning the courtesy. Kate, I'm not telling you to back down. I'm warning you that they're panicking. Vorn is calling me every hour." "Good." There was a pause. Then the President spoke again, softer now. "The families of New Detroit are watching. Make it count." The line went dead. Another transmission alert. This time it was Ambassador Chen Wang, humanity's representative to the Council, his face appearing on her personal screen. He looked exhausted. "Admiral, please. They're willing to discuss reparations now. Full accountability for the Kryn actions." "Chen, they had 6 months to discuss it. They voted down our petition 4 times. They told us to accept our losses and move on." "I know, but where were their negotiations when our people were dying?" Kate's voice cut through his protest. "Where was the Council's concern for diplomatic solutions then?" Chen closed his eyes. "Kate, if you do this, there's no going back. The entire galactic order will turn against us. That order failed us first." She terminated the connection. Lieutenant Graves looked at her with something between admiration and fear. "Admiral, the Kryn are hailing us now. They're asking for your terms." Kate smiled without warmth. "Tell them we decline." "Ma'am." "You heard me, Lieutenant. We decline to negotiate. Humanity isn't here to talk terms. We're here to demonstrate consequences." The tactical display updated. The Lincoln had just emerged from hyperspace, right on schedule. Its weapon ports were already opening. Around the galaxy, the Council was learning a hard lesson. Humanity didn't ask for permission anymore. They didn't negotiate with those who'd authorized the murder of their people. They simply acted. And the galaxy would learn to respect that, one way or another. Admiral Kate Morrison stood on the bridge of the Valiant, watching the Council's defense fleet scramble into panic formations, and felt no mercy whatsoever. The time for mercy had died with 12,000 souls on New Detroit. Now was the time for justice, delivered by human hands, on human terms. The galaxy could accept that, or it could burn. Either way, humanity would never beg again. The warning shot from the Lincoln lit up space like a newborn star, and across every diplomatic channel in Council space, ambassadors started screaming. But no one aboard the Valiant was answering their calls. Not today. Not ever again. Lieutenant Commander Jake Foster watched the power readings spike on the Lincoln's primary weapon. "Admiral, they're charging the Atlas cannon. 40 seconds to full capacity." Kate Morrison didn't blink. "All ships maintain position. No one fires until I give the word." But she wouldn't have to give that word, not if the Council was smart. The cannon wasn't aimed at the station. It was aimed at the empty space beside it. A demonstration, a promise. The Council had 2 minutes to understand what was about to happen. 2 minutes to realize that negotiation time had passed. 2 minutes to learn that humanity's patience had limits. and those limits had been crossed months ago when they'd sat in their chambers and voted to look the other way while human civilians died. The comm systems continued their frantic bleating. 17 different species representatives were now begging for an audience. Kate Morrison declined them all. The Atlas cannon fired, and a section of space simply ceased to exist. The demonstration shot tore through the fabric of reality itself, a weapon born from human desperation and human genius, showing the galaxy what happened when you pushed a patient species too far. In the council chambers, someone finally understood. Humanity wasn't here to negotiate anymore. They were here to teach. The Lincoln's engines hummed as it prepared the second shot. This one would be aimed 6 degrees closer to the station. Kate Morrison checked her chronometer. The council had 90 seconds to evacuate. She hoped they were smart enough to run, but if they weren't, that was their choice to make. Humanity had made its choice 6 months ago, the moment the council abandoned them. Now the bill was due, and Admiral Kate Morrison was here to collect it in full. No negotiations, no mercy. Just consequences delivered with precision and wrapped in fire. The galaxy would remember this day. They would remember that humans didn't forget their dead, and they would never again mistake human patience for human weakness. Those were two very different things, and the lesson was about to be written in starlight and ash across the void of space for every species to read and understand. The age of humanity asking for permission was over. The age of humanity taking what was owed had just begun. The second shot charged up, and Kate Morrison watched the council station's docking bays flood with evacuation pods. They were learning fast. Good. Because class was now in session, and the tuition was paid in respect, fear, and the understanding that some lines should never be crossed. The Kryn had crossed them. The council had enabled it. Now both would pay the price, and every other species in the galaxy would watch and learn from their mistake. Admiral Kate Morrison stood tall on her bridge, surrounded by her crew, backed by her fleet, and supported by an entire species that had finally decided they were done playing by rules that had failed them. The humans had arrived, and they weren't asking for a seat at the table anymore. They were flipping the table over and building a new one. On their terms, in their image. And the galaxy would adapt, or it would burn. The choice, as always, belonged to them. But humanity's choice was already made, locked in, and irreversible. The Valiant's weapons powered up in sync with the rest of the fleet. 47 human warships holding the most powerful station in council space hostage. And no one was coming to save them, because everyone in the galaxy was suddenly realizing the same terrible truth. Humans weren't the ones who needed saving anymore. They were the ones everyone else needed saving from. And that changed everything. The tactical display updated one final time as the Council transmitted their unconditional surrender, their offer of full reparations, their desperate pleas for mercy and understanding. Kate Morrison read the message, then looked at Lieutenant Graves. Declined, she said simply. Tell them we'll talk when we're ready. On our schedule. In our space. By our rules. She turned back to the view screen, watching the Council squirm. Until then, they can wait. And the galaxy held its breath, learning the hardest lesson it had ever faced. Never back a human into a corner. Because they don't break. They evolve. And evolution in human hands was a weapon sharper than any blade ever forged. The Galactic Council was panicking. Humanity was thriving, and the future belonged to whoever was brave enough to seize it. Humanity had seized it with both hands and wasn't letting go. Not now. Not ever. The stars themselves seemed to pause, watching the transfer of power happen in real time, as an old order crumbled and a new one was born in its place. And at the center of it all stood Admiral Kate Morrison, a woman who'd lost friends on New Detroit, who'd been told to accept it, move on, forget them. She had done none of those things. She had remembered every single name, and now the galaxy would remember too. The Lincoln's Atlas cannon powered down, its point made. Its message delivered. 47 human ships turned in unison and began their departure, leaving the council station intact but forever changed. The message was clear. Humanity could have destroyed them. Humanity chose not to. But that choice was humanity's to make, not the council's to assume. And that difference, that shift in power and perspective, rewrote the rules of galactic civilization in under 6 hours. The age of human subjugation was over. The age of human dominance had just begun. And nobody, nowhere, would ever forget the day the humans declined to negotiate and taught the galaxy what real power looked like. It looked like patience tested beyond breaking. It looked like mercy withheld until earned. It looked like justice delivered cold and precise. It looked like humanity, unified and unstoppable. And it looked like the future. A future where humans didn't ask. They decided. And the galaxy learned to live with those decisions whether they liked them or not. Admiral Kate Morrison returned to her command chair satisfied. The lesson was taught, the price was paid, and humanity's position in the galaxy was now exactly where it belonged, at the top, where no one could ever threaten them again. Commander Lisa Park broke the silence on the bridge. Admiral, we're receiving transmission requests from 7 different species governments. They're asking to establish direct diplomatic channels with Earth, bypassing the Council entirely. Kate allowed herself a small smile. Forward them to the State Department. But tell them there's a waiting list now. We'll get to them when we're ready. The bridge crew exchanged glances. The shift was happening faster than anyone had predicted. The Council's authority was crumbling by the minute, and new alliances were already forming around humanity as the emerging power. Ma'am, the Kryn Empire is transmitting on all frequencies, Lieutenant Graves reported. They're claiming this was all a misunderstanding. They're offering full reparations for New Detroit and requesting a meeting with President Hayes. A misunderstanding, Kate repeated, her voice dripping with contempt. 12,000 dead civilians was a misunderstanding. Tell the Kryn their request is declined. If they want reparations delivered, they can send them to New Detroit's Memorial Fund. No meetings, no negotiations. Just payment and silence. Yes, ma'am. The hyperspace engines thrummed to life as the fleet prepared to jump. They'd accomplished what they came for without firing a single shot at a living target. The demonstration had been enough. The Atlas cannon had torn open space itself, showing every military analyst in the galaxy that human weapons technology had leaped forward by generations in just a few months. Necessity was the mother of invention, and humanity had been very, very necessary lately. Jake Foster pulled up a report on his console. Admiral, intelligence is reporting massive troop movements across Kryn space. They're pulling back from all their forward positions. It looks like a full military contraction. They're afraid, Kate said simply. Good. Fear breeds caution. Caution keeps them from making more mistakes. The Council is transmitting again, Graves announced. Speaker Vorn is personally requesting just 5 minutes of your time. He says it's urgent. Kate glanced at the chronometer. Tell the speaker I'll give him 3 minutes, not a second more. And it's audio only. He doesn't deserve to see my face. Graves opened the channel. Speaker Vorn's voice came through, strained and desperate. He was a Delvarian, a species known for their diplomatic prowess and careful neutrality. That neutrality had apparently meant standing aside while humans died. Admiral Morrison, please. We acknowledge mistakes were made. The Council votes regarding the Kryn situation were errors in judgment. We're prepared to offer full restitution, establish new protective agreements for human colonies, and grant Earth permanent seats on 7 key committees, including the Security Council. Kate let him finish. Then she spoke, her voice cold and measured. Speaker Vorn, 6 months ago we came to you as petitioners. We brought evidence of Kryn aggression. We showed you documented proof of attacks on civilian vessels. We presented the names and faces of the dead. Do you remember what you told us? There was a pause. Admiral, You told us that the Kryn had legitimate security concerns. You told us that human expansion was destabilizing the region. You told us to be patient while the Council investigated. Then you voted 4 separate times to table our petition indefinitely. We were trying to maintain galactic stability. You were maintaining convenience. Kate cut him off. It was easier to let humans die than to confront the Kryn. Easier to sacrifice our people than risk conflict. Well, Speaker Vorn, you got your conflict anyway. The only difference is, now you're on the wrong side of it. Admiral, please be reasonable. I'm being perfectly reasonable. You're offering us seats at your table. We're offering you the chance to keep breathing. I'd say we're being generous. Vorn's voice rose in pitch. You can't threaten the entire Council. There are laws, protocols, centuries have established, and where were those laws when our people needed them? Kate's voice could have frozen helium. Those protocols didn't save anyone on New Detroit. Your centuries of tradition just got 12,000 people killed. So forgive me, Speaker, if I'm not impressed by your appeals to authority. What do you want? Vorn asked, and for the first time his voice carried genuine fear. I want you to understand something, Kate said. Humanity isn't part of your galactic order anymore. We're not playing by your rules. We're not waiting for your approval. We're not begging for your protection. From this moment forward, humans decide what happens in human space, and everyone else lives with those decisions. That's isolation. That's sovereignty, Kate corrected. Something the Council apparently forgot we possessed. We'll trade with who we want. We'll ally with who we choose. We'll defend ourselves however we see fit. And if anyone, council member or not, threatens human lives again, we'll respond with the full force of human ingenuity and human fury. You're destroying centuries of galactic cooperation. No, Speaker. The Council destroyed that when they voted to sacrifice human lives for political convenience. We're just making sure everyone understands the new reality. Humanity stands alone now, and we're stronger alone than we ever were, begging for the Council's protection. Kate checked her chronometer. Your 3 minutes are up, Speaker Vorn. The next time we talk, it'll be because we decide to talk, not because you demand it. Morrison out. She cut the connection before he could respond. The bridge was silent for a long moment. Then Lisa Park spoke quietly. Admiral, do you think we just declared independence from the entire galactic community? Kate considered the question. No, Commander. I think we just reminded them that we were always independent. They just forgot to treat us that way. The fleet jumped to hyperspace in perfect formation, leaving Council space behind. They weren't running. They were choosing their own path, on their own terms, answerable to no one but themselves. Back on Earth, President Hayes watched the fleet disappear from long-range sensors and made a decision. Within the hour, he would address the entire human species. The message would be simple. The age of asking permission was over. Humanity was charting its own course now. The response from human colonies across known space was immediate and overwhelming. Celebrations broke out on every human world. The species that had been dismissed as newcomers, as junior members of the galactic community, had just declared their true power, and they'd done it without firing a shot in anger. The Atlas cannon demonstration had shown what humans could do. The refusal to negotiate had shown what humans would do. Together, those two messages rewrote the galaxy's understanding of where humans fit in the cosmic hierarchy. They didn't fit into the hierarchy. They stood outside it, independent and unbound. Within 24 hours, 17 species had formally requested direct diplomatic relations with Earth, bypassing the Council entirely. Within a week, the Council's authority had fractured into competing power blocks, with humanity emerging as the single most influential force in known space. The Kryn Empire, facing the prospect of human retaliation, collapsed into internal power struggles. Their emperor was deposed within a month, replaced by a reform council that immediately paid full reparations to New Detroit and formally apologized for every human life lost. Kate Morrison never attended a single negotiation. She didn't need to. Her presence at the council station, her refusal to engage, her demonstration of human weapons technology, all of it had done more than 1,000 diplomatic meetings could have accomplished. She'd shown the galaxy that humans couldn't be pushed around. She'd proven that human patience had limits. She'd demonstrated that crossing those limits carried consequences. And she'd done it all without compromise, without apology, without seeking anyone's approval. Admiral Kate Morrison returned to Earth as a hero, but she didn't feel like one. She'd just done what needed doing. She'd stood up for human lives when the galaxy refused to. She'd drawn a line and dared anyone to cross it. No one had crossed it, no one would. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Humanity was no longer the species you could sacrifice for convenience. Humanity was the species you respected, feared, and never ever underestimated again. And if the Galactic Council didn't like that new reality, well, they should have thought about that before they authorized the deaths of 12,000 human beings. Admiral Kate Morrison stood in the Memorial Garden on New Detroit, rebuilt from the ashes of the Kryn attack. 12,000 names were carved into black stone, each one representing a life lost, a family destroyed, a future stolen. She placed her hand on the memorial wall. "They know now," she whispered. "The whole galaxy knows. Your deaths weren't acceptable losses. They were acts of war, and we answered that war the only way we could." The wind carried her words away across the rebuilt colony. Somewhere in council space, species leaders were frantically rewriting their strategies for dealing with humans. Somewhere in Kryn territory, military commanders were calculating how many ships they'd need to defend against human retaliation that would probably never come. Somewhere in the dark between stars, other species watched and learned and understood that the galaxy had changed forever. Humans had arrived, not as petitioners, not as junior partners, but as equals who demanded respect and took it when respect wasn't freely given. The Galaxy Council had panicked when humans declined to negotiate. They'd panicked because they finally understood what humanity had known all along. Power doesn't come from permission. It comes from will, capability, and the courage to use both when necessary. Humanity had all three, and the galaxy would never forget the day they learned that lesson. Admiral Kate Morrison turned away from the memorial and walked back to her transport. There was work to do, a galaxy to navigate, a future to build, and this time humans would build it on their own terms, in their own way, answerable only to themselves. The Council could panic all they wanted. Humanity was done caring about their panic. Humanity was busy becoming the power that everyone else had to worry about, and that was exactly where they belonged. Not begging at the table, but setting the terms of who got to sit there in the first place. The transport lifted off, carrying the Admiral back to orbit, back to her fleet, back to the work of securing human independence in a galaxy that had tried to keep them dependent. That galaxy was changing fast, adapting to new realities, learning new lessons. And at the center of all those changes, all those lessons, stood humanity. Unbowed, unbroken, undeniable. The Galaxy Council could panic. Let them. Humanity had stars to claim and a future to seize. And nothing in the galaxy was going to stop them now.